So June has been an interesting month for Nintendo fans because everyone was pretty much asking the same thing. Where's the Nintendo Direct? When are we going to learn about the games that are coming out in the second half of the year? Many people thought it was going to happen like the first or second week of June. That came and passed. We never got it. People got angry, right? They got mad. Like, where's my Direct? I need a Nintendo Direct. And then Nintendo was like, all right, bro, we got you. Here's the Xenoblade Chronicles 3 Direct. We're going to show you all about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and a 20+ minute presentation on this game. And I was like, all right, that's cool. I mean, technically it is a Nintendo Direct, but what about a general Nintendo Direct? That's what we want. And Nintendo, they heard you. All right, they're listening. They have your house bugged. They know what you say. They read your mean tweets to them. They see your mean comments, and they're like, all right, Streets want a standard Nintendo Direct. That's what we're going to give them. And then, you know, we got the Nintendo Direct we got yesterday. A Nintendo Direct Mini showcasing third-party games. Now, granted, Mario was there. I mean, when you look at Mario, even if he's made by someone else, you pretty much assimilate it with the first-party Nintendo game. But obviously, this Direct left a lot of questions open because now it's kind of like, well, we're probably not getting like a first-party presentation anytime soon. So what is exactly coming out for the second half of the year as far as first-party titles are concerned? We know like what third-party stuff is bringing to the table because we got a presentation on it. But when it comes to the first-party stuff, that's where things get a bit more interesting. And that's where the whole GameCube situation comes into play. But it's not exactly how you would probably want it. So let's go ahead and look at what is confirmed for the second half of the year for the Nintendo Switch when it involves first-party titles. We of course know that, I mean, technically Xenoblade Chronicles 3 could be considered a second half of the year game. It comes out towards the tail end of July. Obviously a huge title. You know, I thought the Direct looked pretty good. I know people think that I hate that game. I don't. But I don't know, I don't know, would like to see something else. But hey, you know what? Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is cool. Why does Nintendo need to show us anything? Beyond that, we have, of course, the mystery of Splatoon 3. Why did that game get delayed? Originally, that game was supposed to be the July game. That got pushed back to September. Hopefully, they're working on improving the online of the game. You know, Splatoon 2 had a pretty solid online infrastructure. But after things like, oh, I don't know, Mario Strikers, maybe Nintendo needs to reevaluate how they handle things. And yes, Next Level Games made that, but you act like Nintendo isn't the ultimate overseer who's not just like standing over their shoulder like, you putting that in the game? Oh, you better take that out of the game. We need to let this, you know, marinate. We need to have character drops and levels drop over the course of a few months. This is a Mario sports game, damn it. We need to limit the amount of content on day one. So hopefully that's what they're looking at with Splatoon 3, because realistically, Splatoon games, especially Splatoon 1, did launch light on content. So I hope maybe that they're trying to bolster that game and make it something spectacular. Beyond that though, it's like, I mean, Pokemon is there, of course. We have Pokemon. Everyone loves the Pokemons, but you know, it's kind of technically a second-party game, if anything. You want to talk about another second-party game? You have Bayonetta 3, which I'm still not sure is a 2022 game. I think that could end up slipping into 2023. What we've seen hasn't really been all that much. What we've seen, you know, it did look cool, but there was some performance issues that were noted in the game. And just the fact that we haven't seen much of this game yet kind of leads me to believe that, well, maybe Silence is a bit too golden with this, and they're going to end up delaying this game as well. So now you're sitting here and you're like, well, all right. Is it an all third-party year? Like, that seems kind of weird. You would figure Nintendo would be one of the major companies that would have games to release and games to launch. Of course, there is the rumored completed Fire Emblem game. Could they pull that out of their pocket, out of their sleeve, and give us another Fire Emblem this year? I guess it's possible. Obviously, Fire Emblem and Xenoblade are fan franchise favorites that people love to play and stuff like that. So, you know, that would be kind of cool if they showed off another one of those. You also have Advance Wars. Like, is that ever coming out? The world is filled with wars. I mean, obviously, the timing of that would have been a bit insensitive, but now it's just kind of like, I mean, there's always going to be some sort of conflict going on. I guess you could release this game. But beyond that, we don't really know anything. And that's where the whole GameCube situation comes into play. And that's where things get very interesting, because according to rumors, insiders, people in the know, aka not me, because I'm just an idiot with a camera and a microphone and a couple computer monitors so I can edit this, but according to people in the know, it's looking like a very GameCube heavy holiday 2022. Now, of course, people would automatically think, well, cool, they're adding GameCube to Nintendo Switch Online, but this is Nintendo. This is Nintendo. When would they throw you a bone like that? You are lucky that you get those N64 games instead of re-releases of them on physical products. Looking at you, 3DS, which had some N64 titles on there. Even the DS had N64 titles on there. No, instead we have information coming to us from people like Jeff Grubb and Nate the Hate that there's going to be 3 titles coming out this year, potentially this year I should say, that involve GameCube titles being slightly reworked maybe for the Nintendo Switch. Now, 2 of these we have already talked about that include the Legend of Zelda franchise. Obviously, with Breath of the Wild 2 being delayed, Nintendo themselves have gone on record and saying we want to release a Zelda game every year for the Nintendo Switch. Breath of the Wild 2 ain't coming this year, bucko. So what are you gonna do? There are 2 games sitting there that are already done in HD. They've already been pretty much improved over its predecessor in terms of graphics, couple quality of life improvements as well, and those are of course Wind Waker and Twilight Princess. Now, most people when they think of Twilight Princess, they assimilate it with the Wii, but Twilight Princess did come out on the GameCube as well. It launched right alongside of the launch of the Wii version. Wind Waker was of course known for being on the GameCube. That was the big Zelda game on the GameCube, and while you know, during that time frame people didn't quite respect it the way that they should have, you know, over time it's become a fan favorite. Obviously the graphical style of the game definitely lends itself to look better than a lot of games from that era because of the cell shaded graphics. When you increase those to HD textures, everything looks really good. And like I said, we've already seen these games released on a Nintendo platform before beyond just the GameCube. They were on the Wii U, already done in HD. Granted, you would have to take away some of the functionality of the gamepad, but realistically these are games that would be very easy to port and very easy for Nintendo to release. And then of course we have the other game, Metroid Prime Remake. Now this is where things get a bit wonky and a bit confusing because initially we all just thought that it was just Metroid Prime 1, and that kind of made sense. You know, that was the first game released in the franchise, but now according to Jeff Grubb, they're also done 2 and 3. And they're pretty much done and they're just kind of sitting there, but these are going to be evidently individual releases. And it's kind of like, well, how much work did you do to these? You know, obviously remakes and remasters are something that is common in video game places today. Whether you like them or not, they're here to stay. But a game like Metroid Prime would definitely benefit from something, and really honestly Metroid Prime 2 and 3 would honestly benefit from reworked assets, reworked textures, reworked sort of, you know, maybe fine-tune the controls a little bit, add in some additional content into these games as well. Or are we getting just a straight one-to-one port? You kind of have to look at what Nintendo has done thus far with some of their bigger ports on the Nintendo Switch to kind of make a guess on that, because, you know, initially speaking, I don't think people would be super excited just to buy one GameCube game at $60. Now with Skyward Sword, you know, they reworked the controls. They made that game actually playable. So that was actually a pretty large feat, I felt. And it was something that actually gave that game additional value. I finally finished Skyward Sword because of the fact that, hey, now it has normal controls. But, you know, Wind Waker and Twilight Princess, like, you released those for what, $50 a pop on the Wii U? You're really gonna ask $60 for these? Are these gonna be a bundled thing? And with Metroid Prime, it definitely seems like they're going to be individual releases. And it's like, well, have you done enough work to justify a full $60 price tag for, you know, essentially a game that's 20 years old by now? I know that really dates a lot of us, but, you know, a 20-year-old game with just a little new shine of polish, is that really worth, you know, $60? I think the only hope, because this is Nintendo, all right, let's keep it a buck. They will milk you like a cow. They will take your teat and be like, give us the money. And people will buy it because Nintendo fans are sickos. But there is a little bit of hope, I feel. There is a little bit of hope if this is indeed the lineup, if they're gonna go all balls out with GameCube games on the Switch and not add it to the virtual console, but instead charge you for these games. And my hope is Super Mario 3D World, because when you look at Super Mario 3D World, honestly, that was a game that could have just been simply ported over. They ported over New Super Mario Bros. U, and they literally added like one character that made the game slightly easier. Same thing with freaking Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze. Funky Kong, yeah, give us $60 for Funky Kong. But then you have Super Mario 3D World, which added Bowser's Fury, which honestly was groundbreaking. Like, it was freaking fantastic how good that portion of the game was. Yeah, it wasn't all that long, couple hours long, but then you could go back and 100% it and stuff like that. But that really added value to that game. That really added a ton of additional replay value to that game, and just give you a general overall value because you're getting more than you got with the initial release, and the initial release itself was impressive enough. So I'm hopeful. I don't think you'll see that with stuff like the Zelda games. I think they'll just be, you know, pretty much straight up ports of the HD versions that released on the Wii U, but hopefully those will also be bundled together. I would pay $60 for those two games, you know, no questions asked. That would be awesome. And as far as individual titles are concerned, I don't know, maybe 40. I do like both of those games a lot. I love Twilight Princess, but I would be comfortable paying about $40 for those games because of the fact that, I mean, you probably haven't done all that much. But with Metroid Prime, it's like, well, this game is older, you know, this game never got re-releases, this game never got remakes. Could you add in some additional content in terms of, you know, maybe a new area that Samus visits, or even some online multiplayer to potentially check out what this game is going to be like with Metroid Prime 4, use it sort of as a test, because Nintendo themselves, you know, they don't really do first-person adventure games all that often, and that's hoping that there is first-person shooter stuff. So, I don't know. As many questions as we got answered potentially during this month of June for Nintendo fans, I really think it adds in even more questions. It honestly looks like a lot like the pandemic year, where they did things like these third-party directs. They didn't talk about their first-party stuff. Then they did the whole Super Mario 3D All-Stars collection completely out of nowhere, which hopefully gives us a little bit of hope for the Legend of Zelda stuff as well, if that's, you know, kind of the route they're going. But honestly, I kind of like it. I kind of like it because it doesn't make it, you know, super black and white. And a lot of people like that, and I understand, because I'm a type of person who normally, I like everything concrete. I like everything in black and white. I like to know what is going to happen. But this, I got a little bit of the mystery. You know, I got a little bit of excitement. Because these announcements, these reveals, these information, these trailers for these games, they could come out of seemingly nowhere. Because Nintendo is sort of treating it like they treated the 3D All-Stars collection. So, I don't know, I'm kind of excited for it. You know, it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening, if this is going to be a GameCube heavy holiday season for Nintendo in 2022. You kind of got to wonder, you know, what else happened there with some of these other games. Like, you didn't release your system during a pandemic. These companies should know how to work on your hardware, but that's a conversation for another day. So let me know in the comments section down below how you would feel about this. Is this a lineup that you think is ideal? Is this a lineup that you think would be profitable? Is this a lineup that, I mean, really at the end of the day, the most important thing is this a lineup that you would be interested in? Technically Splatoon 3, potentially Bayonetta, Pokemon, and then a bunch of GameCube games. Let me know in the comments down below, and as always, guys, thank you for checking out this video. If you are new to the channel, be sure to hit that subscribe button, like, comment, and share. Hit the bell notification as well. It is much appreciated, and as always, I'll catch you guys on the next video. Later.